4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, hello. Welcome to J.E.D.I Lunch Break Live. I am the J.E.D.I Master herself, Holly Holiday. As you all know, J.E.D.I stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And if you have been following along, we have been discussing the organizing and implementation of equity plans. We've been on a multi-part series. We are now in into our final part, which is actually part 4 of our session of our cycles. There are 4 cycles, and we refer to them as cycles because each cycle can start at any point, and you can enter the process of implementing equity points at any point along the cycle. But it requires understanding kind of what you've done, where you are, and where you want to go. And so those 4 key cycles include planning, implementation, monitoring and evaluation, and then finally the last cycle being sustainability and scalability. And that's what we're going to continue talking about today. If you want more information on the other cycles within the implementing equity plans sessions that we've been talking about, you can check those out on our YouTube channel at Holiday Advisors on YouTube, and you can get the bites for those other cycles right there, very accessible for you. As we continue on in scalability and sustainability, we've already talked about the need for documenting best practices. We've already talked about the need to have ongoing funding. And so today we're going to wrap up with the third piece of scalability and sustainability, and that is maintaining community and stakeholder involvement. Now, for those of you who've been working with us for a while, you'll remember that we talked about stakeholder involvement when we talked about the planning cycle. But in that case, we were looking at the opportunities to do outreach and to engage people in a different way. Here, under scalability and sustainability, we're going to be talking about maintaining those relationships and potentially expanding those relationships, and then also using those relationships to ensure that we are connected and that we're getting the right level of feedback so that we ultimately start the cycle all over again. These are never-ending cycles. Meaning that you continue to go through the 4 core areas of the cycle and you just put them on repeat. And you go, well, if it never ends, why start? Well, it's really about getting better. You know, the pathway to equity is a journey. And the goal here is not always perfection, because that's going to be difficult to achieve. After all, we all are humans. And as humans, part of our humanity is we 100% will make mistakes. But at the same time that we will absolutely make mistakes, we also absolutely have the ability to get better. And as we get better, guess what happens? We make new mistakes. But again, we also have the opportunity to even improve from those. And so keeping in mind that that this is not, it's just like kind of the idea about losing weight. It's not about being on a diet. It's about changing your lifestyle. And that's exactly what equity plans are. They're not about just having a quick fix. It's about changing the way in which you're evaluating and managing your workplace culture. And so these are long-term sustained strategies intended to continually transform your workplace environment to be ever ready to meet the ongoing evolution of the people who work for you and with you. All right, I'm off my soapbox on that. Let's get back to stakeholder involvement. And so, as I mentioned, this is about ensuring that you have long-term success, not just engaging people. So at this point, you've already identified who your stakeholders are, and you've already engaged them and communicated with them at some level about the work that you're trying to do. So now, as we are thinking through the sustainability, scalability, what we really want to make sure is that we've done a couple of things. One of those things is assess stakeholder perspectives. Make sure that we understand the needs, concerns, and priorities of our stakeholder groups, that it is clear that how that stakeholder group connects into the plan. And that's number three, and that is communicating clear objectives. It's important that the plans not only align and create value for our stakeholders, but also remain aligned to our organizational values and missions and goals. The next thing we want to think about is the communications channels. We want to make sure that there is a clean line of communication and expectation about how communication is going to happen over time. You can't communicate one time, two times, and think that you're done. And also, communication needs to be an effective two-way street. So, on the one hand, you may do some things that are like broadcasts, like a newsletter or an email update. But I also recommend that you pepper in things that require two-way communication, like social media or one-on-one meetings or even group or town hall meetings. This way, you are in constant communication, not just one way, but two ways, always getting that feedback, which is the next one, soliciting feedback and input. And so while we want to make sure that you have clear communications channels, when you're thinking about the two-way communication, think about the opportunity to not only engage in dialogue, but also use Q&A. You may even do survey work, or even have some kind of feedback loop or process. Here, key, above all, in addition to communications, transparency. Be transparent about what you're trying to do, the problem you're trying to solve, and the limitations. This is also the opportunity to not only be transparent about the limitations, but be transparent about the celebration. You know, being a part of an equity plan shouldn't just be drudgery, it should be joyful as well. The joy is actually what's going to really keep you motivated and encourage people to stay with you as you work through whatever challenges and limitations, and let's face it, potential risks that may apply. Longevity also creates the opportunity to stay committed to action. This lets people know that you look at perhaps a pilot project, or you look at things that are working well in one area, and it shows that you're willing to not only sustain, but to scale. And we talked about that. And one of the key parts of that, in terms of your commitment to action, is tracking the data, which is one of the very first things we discussed when talking about the scalability and sustainability. And then probably one of the most important things, and we've actually talked about this at every level, but it's important here as well, and that is to continuously monitor the impact. Continuously monitor the impact, not just on key stakeholders, but also as the organization as a whole. And then use this evaluation and monitoring of impact to help inform what will be the next iteration of the cycle. Well, that's all we have for today in terms of stakeholder engagement. But I want to remind you that we have two more things to cover when we're talking about scalability and sustainability. So you want to come back the next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about policy integration. And then the week after that, we're going to be talking about replication. And you don't want to miss either one of those. Those will be the final button on what has been our evolution of our equity plan as we've worked through all four of the cycles. So exciting. That's it for me today. If you have any questions, as always, we encourage you to email us at J.E.D.I at holidayadvisors.com. We welcome the opportunity to take your questions and to connect with you. Our goal is to create humanitarian, welcome, belonging spaces at work for as many people as possible. So it doesn't necessarily mean just contacting me, but we're happy to help you get started. But looking for key professionals who do this as a discipline to help you should you need it. The key is take the first step. That's what's important. Start somewhere. Do something. Doing something in most cases is almost always better than doing nothing. And our hope is that these little short tidbits that we do every Thursday will help get you started and get your mind working and thinking about how you can be implementing equity plans in your workplace. Um, if you haven't done so already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe at Holiday Advisors on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook. We look forward to engaging with you more. Until then, we will see you next Thursday at this same time. And can I say, as a point of privilege, how excited I am, especially today. In fact, all this week, I've been excited for those Kansas City Chiefs. The hometown team beat them out in overtime, which just lets you know the underdogs are not always underdogs. Occasionally, we win. And if you are in a position where you feel like you're an underdog in your workplace, think about the Chiefs and think about implementing equity plans. See you next Thursday. Did you enjoy this segment of J.E.D.I Lunch Break Live? I'll be back next Thursday. Come on back and bring a friend.